welcome again with our frequent podcast called Wear Many Hats, inspired by Ethan Hawkey. Throughout the year, I, David Punter, the Business Development Director for Hawkey Cleaning and Support Services, shall be interviewing prominent FM and procurement subject matter experts across a range of industry market sectors. It is these people with their knowledge and wealth of experience that will inspire the next generation of young professionals. Our objective is to share our guests' story and experiences to help motivate, engage and inspire others into the industry. Through Wear Many Hats podcast, we hope our listeners will gain new perspectives, insights and learn about the strategies to develop their careers in the FM procurement business. It gives me great pleasure to introduce
Gareth Davies
from
Allianz Partners UK.
And without further ado, I think that leads me to my first set of questions. So, Gareth, I wanted to just go back in the sort of annals of time into where your journey into procurement. Can you give me a little bit of an idea of how you started into this career?
Yes. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I started working for Allianz Partners in 1999. It was actually my first ever office job, and I thought I'd give it 6 months and then I'll go and get a proper job. And that was working in the call centre. Over a period of time, I had various roles that resulted in me being the head of motor assistance. So Allianz Partners, we're the largest assistance company in the world, and we provide assistance globally. So I was looking after the motor assistance side of the business.
Sorry, where was that based?
In Croydon.
Okay.
In Croydon. Some people were saying Surrey, but Greater London. Part of that role was actually managing relationships with suppliers from an operational perspective. I worked on some various projects with colleagues across Europe, so I was involved in a couple of projects that involved Scandinavia, the Nordics and Baltics. And by 2014, we were going through a restructure, and I had the opportunity to move into a head of procurement role, which was a new function, because historically there was no central function for procurement or for managing the various networks that we had. So in 2014, I had the opportunity to move into that role because I had enjoyed, the supplier relationship aspect of my role when I was in operations.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I fell into it. I didn't have a background as such.
So you had no previous procurement background before? No. It was just that you found a niche, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, my wife's best friend works in procurement and has worked in procurement for many years, and I used to mock her that she was a glorified shopper. So now those tables have turned, and she now
I'm sure
she now reminds me of that.
And now you're a glorified shopper.
Exactly. So it was never like a lot of people in procurement. It was never the plan. And then after about a year, I thought, right, I need to really start taking this seriously, because whatever I do, I always like to try and do my best. So I started with my SIPS qualifications.
Okay, this was in, 2015?
Yes, going into 2006.
Okay.
2015/16. My first year was self-study.
Right.
That was hard going, if I'm honest. So there's year 2 and 3, I went through a school.
And did Allianz support you in that?
Yes, so that was paid for by Allianz Partners.
Okay.
And then once I finished my SIPS, I found this new sort of love for learning. I left school at 16. So I found this new love for learning, so then went on and took a master's as well. So which coincided with COVID and lockdown. So yes.
So it's interesting. So you didn't. You did your formal qualifications much later. So people that are leaving school probably at 16, 18, there is still this route in through being learning whilst on the job.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. And I think also there's apprenticeship schemes as well.
Okay.
That people
does Allianz do apprenticeship schemes?
We don't ourselves, but Allianz as in the wider company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting. So, what is it that you like about now that you've been very established and in a very senior role at Allianz? What is it you like about the procurement role?
For me, you have a real view of the business.
Okay.
There isn't a line of business or a function that we don't get involved with to a greater or lesser degree.
Okay.
So, you build a really good network across the business. It gives you, from a pure, business studies kind of understanding, you get that breadth as
Across all
opposed to
departments.
Across all departments, whether it is actually your finance team, which is kind of, if you like, perhaps some of the more obvious ones, but whether it's HR, marketing, IT, the whole breadth of.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Is that what's the easiest department to deal with?
Oh, probably facilities, actually. And I say that because I look after multiple areas. And the reason why is they're clearer in what's required.
Okay.
We get, for instance, we get a lot of tenders that we have to respond to, which then means sometimes we have to put a tender out to a supply chain.
Okay.
And the timescales can be quite tight, and my colleagues will have a good idea of what they want, but through that process it will evolve.
Right.
And because it's quite tight timescales, that can be a challenge sometimes. It's a challenge for them, and it's a challenge for us. So it's not because they're difficult, it's because just the way that we as a business respond to clients and potential clients.
So you're saying that facilities are probably the easiest department to deal with?
Yes, because
they know what they want.
Exactly.
But okay, so on the other flip side of the coin, of course, I'm going to ask you is that what's perhaps a more challenging department to deal with?
So it is, as I say, where we deal with our account managers. So facilities is it's quite cyclical. Whether it's your maintenance schemes, your periods of maintenance, you identify where that perhaps needs some remedial work, cleaning, all that sort of thing. It's quite cyclical, and we kind of, what I like to put it is, we move to kind of a beat of a drum. We there's nothing really. We don't get too many unexpected events.
But other departments could be more unexpected there.
So sometimes our assistance platform. So one line of business we have is on motor assistance.
Okay.
So some of the prestigious motor manufacturers in the UK we provide roadside assistance to.
Okay.
And if their customers need assistance, we have to go out, try and fix their car. If we can't, we get them into a retailer and provide them with hire cars, taxis, hotels, whatever's needed. And sometimes, for whatever reason, that can't be fulfilled. It might be because of the customer's location, the time of night. There's things that sometimes just go wrong. Right. And we have to respond to that quite quickly because people are in a potentially dangerous situation.
Okay.
So that's where we sometimes are quite responsive. We plan, but we always have to respond to events, and that is where it can be more of a challenge than perhaps, as I say, something like facilities or even HR, where we know contract dates. We liaise with the business owners managing their individual, their individual suppliers.
Okay, I mean it's interesting because I mean for me, I didn't realise that a head of procurement would be involved in those day-to-day procurement issues.
So well, it's my team. It's me and my team.
Okay.
It's me and my team. So
and that falls within your department.
Yeah. So we have. We have what we class as core business and corporate spend. So core business is all around essentially how we
work.
What we provide assistance to customers and support to clients, etc. And then corporate spend will be things like facilities, your marketing, your HR, consultants, etc.
Okay. It's an education for me too, actually. And so the industry you're in is financial insurance.
Yes.
Based industry, so which kind of answers my next question really, so we won't need to go into too much detail on that. But looking now, which skills do you think are required for your job?
I think probably most important is listening. It's listening to what people tell you, but it's also listening to what they don't tell you, making sure, because by listening you're able to try and pin them down in terms of what they actually want, what they are actually saying. So whether it's a supplier, we have very good relations. We tend to have strategic partnerships with our suppliers because of the nature of our business. We're not buying widgets, we're buying predominantly services.
Yeah.
So it is important to have strategic relationships. So sometimes you have to listen to what they're not saying as opposed to what they are saying. And something I've learned, and I was very bad at it, if I'm honest, to start with, is when you're listening, listen properly and don't listen to answer, to jump in. I think sometimes you get so hung up on wanting to respond.
Yeah, of what you're going to say.
Listening, yes. So I used to be quite bad at that, if I'm honest. I used to jump into, with both feet, and it's something that through working in procurement I've got much better.
And so you will have a whole rake of suppliers that you're working with, I assume preferred suppliers.
Yeah.
So there could be some that are for the day-to-day stuff and some that are, let's say, for the facilities management of your buildings or something, because that comes under your remit too. So your remit is very wide in terms of, as you said, it's the core business of your day-to-day operating, but also the premises and all of those particular things as well. Is that correct in that assumption? Okay.
Exactly. So for me, listening is important. I have people in my team who are in effect subject matter experts. Okay. So it's having trust with my team.
How big is your team?
So we have on the assistant side, there's 2 supplier development managers. Okay. And then I have 6 on the facilities team.
Gosh. So
it's a fair size, and then we liaise with other business owners as well. Okay. So we operate in a matrix organisation, so there's lots of dotted lines. Okay. So for me, it's very much about listening and being able to have an inquisitiveness. Okay. And then I suppose from a more technical perspective, the role is becoming more technologically advanced. There's lots of technological integration that's taking place. Right. And I think it's important that as a function we keep on top of that. Even some of the areas that we're not necessarily moving into, but we are aware, because 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, you don't.
Right. So you would be responsible for, like, if, I don't know, Allianz decided it wants a whole load of new computers to purchase or something, that would come under the procurement
Yes,
side?
not computers, because Allianz have their own IT company, but yes.
Right. We like CRMs and things like that.
Yes. Yeah. So
AI and things like that.
Yeah, so we work with various suppliers and have different integration. For instance, on our travel insurance, there's medical screening. So even though that's a software, that falls under more to do with procurement than it does with technology. So software as a service falls under my remit.
So you mentioned one of the key skills required for your job is being a good listener. What else would you say is a key skill for your role?
So, as I say, inquisitiveness, and negotiation, obviously. Is
it all about price, though?
No, it's about value for me. Okay. That can be a tough conversation sometimes, being honest, and perhaps more so at the moment. We've had lots of conversations with our suppliers over the last 12 months because of the impact of inflation, and it's up to us to be a fair client to those suppliers, and we've had some tough conversations with our clients as well. So
it's a knock-on effect.
It's a knock-on effect. So yes, but at the same time, you need to be able to negotiate and make sure that the service that you think you are buying is that. Yeah. And if you decide that you don't want to pay a particular price because you feel that the cost element of that is too much, right? And what is it you do get for a lower cost? Because what you can't necessarily do is say, right, you want £10, we'll give you £7, but we still want the same service. Yes. Now you might meet at £9, and that's all fine.
We'd like to meet at £9 then, wouldn't we?
So it's that whole kind of just work. As I say, we tend to have strategic partnerships. So when we negotiate, we already I suppose sometimes it's almost trying to think of the word, something that can make the negotiation challenging because we know each other so well. It's difficult for them to come to us with something that would be potentially, outrageous, and it's difficult for us to be too harsh, because we know each other's businesses. So most of our relationships on go back 10, 15, 20 years. So we know each other's businesses really well, and the costs that are...
I think what you mentioned, though, which was a key point, is the reasonableness and fairness. I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here with insurance companies in particular, is that, we all know that a lot of the premiums have gone up quite considerably. So you are, let's say, not raking it in, but there is quite a lot of percentage that's going on insurance premiums, across the board. So the money's there. So do you not feel that reasonableness can be stretched?
Yes, but that's again
because that's how I would negotiate.
That comes to fairness. So, from my perspective, we are a business within the UK, and it's up to me to help ensure that we remain a profitable business unit. I also look after Ireland to a degree as well, and the same principle applies. Allianz are a huge insurance company that make a lot of money every year.
Yes.
And sometimes that can be used or attempt to be used to beat us over the head because, as you say, make lots of money. But that's Allianz as a parent company and not us, and we have our own profit, our own P&L to look after. So, we work hard to. When you have a strategic partnership, the idea is that everybody wins. Yeah.
It's a win-win situation.
As I mentioned, we are buying services. If a company is not happy with what we are doing, what sort of service are they going to give to our customers and to our clients' customers? It's not going to work.
No.
So yes, we do try to be as...
Okay, good. Fair point. So, let's say, typical day at work for you. I mean, I would always say that there's probably no such thing as a typical day. Yeah. But what is it? Let's say a typical day for Gareth.
So you're right. There isn't really such a thing as a typical day. But normally I'm up about 5:15. I go to the gym. The gym's near my work. I then get into work. I'm at my desk by about 7:30. I have my breakfast and
your desk.
Yeah, and I read through some trade newsletters that come through every morning. I'll have a look at the news. If you like, ease myself into my day, just get a feel for what's going on sort of outside of business. It's a half an hour where I just kind of bring myself up to speed with anything. So I have insurance industry bulletins, SIP, supply chain management,
and this all comes through on daily.
Email. Yeah. So it's just a good way to keep on top of things, and that's highlighted by pre-COVID, SIPs were sending bulletins around COVID because of the impact on supply chains in China. Yeah. Whereas some of my colleagues within the business, it was all happening a long way away, and it didn't really appreciate. I mean, none of us, I think, really appreciated it, but didn't really think that it was something that would necessarily
hit our shores.
So I was able to start to take some measures ahead of time.
What would you say to someone by way of advice if they were starting a career off in the sort of procurement?
Embed yourself, find out as much as you can. Don't pigeonhole yourself. Try everything. You've got hard facilities. Some people perhaps have a bit more of an engineering bent in terms of their learning. So you've got all the hard facilities that go with that. Some people perhaps might prefer more the soft facilities, but just try everything.
Understanding each of those things.
Get a real broad understanding, and then see where you tend to naturally be sort of attracted. But for me, it's very much get as broad a knowledge as possible. When I moved into facilities, I thought I had a reasonably good idea of what was involved, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. It was a real learning curve. My team were really tolerant of my stupid questions, because I now say to my team, because sometimes they don't understand why people take so many things for granted, but it's because they don't need to know. They don't need to know. We have on our top floor is where all our air handling units and air conditioning, etc. People don't know the amount of work that goes into keeping those running, and they don't need to know.
No.
They don't need to know. And it's a credit to my team and the work that they've done that people don't need to know, because it's only when it goes wrong when people start asking questions. So get as broad a knowledge as possible, and then see which one really you feel.
Thank you.
So,
like. Looking specifically though at facilities management, do you think has the way that facilities management procurement changed over the years?
I think so. I think there is more. As we mentioned about the difference between value and cost, I think there's a lot more focus now on value. I also think that the impact of good facilities procurement and design, whether it's offices, etc., the impact that has on productivity, etc., now is more widely acknowledged. It's not just about I come from a call centre background, and probably 20 years ago, it was just getting as many bums on seats as you could in quite
boxes
a condensed area, where that's not the case anymore. So yeah, I do think it's changed, and I also think that the way that as we say things around sustainability, etc., there's a lot more again than price. So whereas a lot of facilities management, I think, was probably classed as tactical, it's actually now perhaps a bit more strategic for a lot of businesses.
Okay. And as a procurement specialist, do you intend to stay on top of the relevant market trends?
We as I say, I have my various news bulletins. I listen to podcasts. I have a dog, so when I'm walking the dog, I have my headphones in. And
is that your podcasting time then, when you're walking the dog?
Primarily, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether it is, I listen to, I've got, I can't even remember the name of the book I'm listening to at the moment. It's by a gentleman who is a hostage negotiator.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. It's so interesting I can't remember the name of it. But
well, we're not going to hold you hostage, Gareth.
But yes, I listen to various audio books and podcasts, and try and get quite a broad information.
So do you think obviously COVID has made a dramatic effect on how we work and that? But do you think, I mean, from our point of view, we're a cleaning and support services company, do you think it's kept suppliers and procurers more at arm's length?
I only think it's kept suppliers at arm's length if you want to keep suppliers at arm's length. I think COVID is a convenience excuse for people who want to keep their suppliers at arm's length, because you may engage in a slightly different way, whether it's over Teams, or telephone calls, etc. You might not meet face to face quite as much as you did.
Okay.
But if that supplier is important to you, then you will maintain that relationship. If it's somebody that actually, for whatever reason, it's given you that opportunity to perhaps put that space that had previously closed over time.
Okay.
Then you will use that as an opportunity. So it probably has for some, but I think if a supplier is important to you, then you work around.
You make it work. Yeah. So how has hybrid working affected sort of your approach to procurement for service to a building?
So we have, so from a facilities perspective, we now have quite a wide, we won a large contract through during COVID. So our headcount went from 450 to 800 people.
Okay.
And prior to COVID, we had about 3 home workers, and then all of a sudden, everybody's working from home. So it was a real learning curve. So now we have probably about 300 people that are either field-based or home workers.
How many offices do you have?
One. One in the UK.
It's the Croydon office, right?
And that works on a hybrid basis. So we now send out quite a lot of kit to people.
Right.
So in terms of how we support those people, whether it is virtual workstation assessments, making sure that they have the right equipment, the desks are set up at the right height, etc., that the environment that they're working in is suitable. We spend a lot of time around that side of things.
Right. Of course, you wouldn't know if they're working from their sofa, though, would you?
No, and historically, where you would have people who had laptops who may work from home occasionally, they may well sit on their sofa. But when you've got people who are working from home for long periods of time,
you have to go into that sort of assessment and things.
Yes, because you get people, if the table's too high, their wrists start to ache and etc. So, or even if the screen's their neck being crooked. And then from an office perspective, it's about attracting people into the office. So we are looking at how we have more collaborative spaces as opposed to just desks and meeting. So it was 6 floors of desks, 1 floor of meeting rooms, pretty much. So
that's how you have it at the moment.
That's what it was pre-COVID.
Okay.
So we have. We're working on having more collaborative spaces. We're using technology, so we have more conference suites now, because even when people are coming to the office, there's still a number of people who aren't. So trying to make it just a more appealing place for people.
Okay. Has that already been implemented? Or is it still going through?
It's still going through. One of the challenges we have is there's a large construction site outside our office at the moment. So, for instance, one of our car parks is closed because of falling debris.
Right.
So it means that getting everybody into the office quite as much as we would have isn't. We're probably a few months behind where we would like to be.
So, back to procurement. So, what is the next big thing in procurement that we have to look out for?
For me, the next big thing in procurement really is something that is already happening, which is supply chain security. So it's something that we focus on anyway. And you notice with manufacturers that they are starting to insure a lot more because of COVID and, of course, the war in Ukraine.
So in terms of security, you mean supply chain resilience? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. From a resilience perspective. So it's something we've always tried to do because we're an assistance company. We try not to rely on any single provider. We always have a backup. We'll have a primary
a plan B,
a supplier, but we'll always try to make sure we have backup suppliers. Okay. And I think that is something that really more and more organisations are looking at, and they're looking at their suppliers' mitigation for their supply chains as well. Okay,
thank you. Now, how, let's say, looking at EDI issues in equality, diversity and in inclusion, how important are those issues affecting today's procurement decisions?
So we have as part of the Allianz Group, we have many standards. You have a standard for procurement, standard for sustainability, standard for facilities and estate management, etc. And ESG is a huge part of that. So, when you look at CSR initiatives and equality and diversity, they're a huge part of what we do. So, from a tender perspective, it's 10% of the marking.
Marking, okay.
Yeah. And we're very careful to make sure that people walk the walk. We if we issue a tender, we want to see demonstrable evidence that they are
good.
They are, and it's not just a case of
ticking a box.
We gave £1,000 to a local charity last year. We want to see more interaction and what you are doing for the actual for your local environment. It's something that we have had a huge focus on for a number of years. In our local environment, we have supported schools and local charities for quite a number of years, and that's the sort of thing we like to see our suppliers do.
Be involved in.
Different suppliers have different pet projects, and that's fine. But things like a cash donation, that doesn't really...
That doesn't really wash with you. No, I get that. I mean, Hawkey Cleaning and Support Services are very keen on aligning ourselves in terms of with our clients' preferred choices of charitable things rather than ourselves. It's about our clients. So, I know sustainability, you've mentioned, Gareth, is a big thing for you and stuff. And so how important is sustainability issues with a supplier that you work with in terms of markings? And
similar with with the EDI, it all kind of falls under the same kind of ESG.
Yeah.
For me, I suppose my frustration is when people talk about sustainability, they talk about net zero.
Yeah.
They talk about the environment, and that's not to dismiss that in any way, but actually sustainability is so much more.
It is.
And it becomes very easy for people to be focused on net zero, and it's good that people are focused, but just remember that there's all these other parts that go to it, whether
community
it's
and
living wage, all these different aspects, the right to clean water, the right to be able to eat, all that sort of thing.
Are you a real living wage employer?
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And that includes with your supply chain?
Yes, it's one of the things that we.
Okay.
And to be honest, so a lot of our clients as well, when they come to us, they want to see that is something we do, and also that we make sure that our
it's the right thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the next trend in procurement? Suppliers like Hawkey Cleaning and Support Services we need to wake up to?
I think it's just touched on it really. The realisation that sustainability is more than just the greenhouse gas. More than net zero, and that you mentioned resilience, and business resilience covers such a wide area, and ESG kind of touches all those points for me. And if you have a good ESG structure, to me that's reflective of you as an organisation, and probably means that you have good good governance by definition.
Okay, thank you for that. So now looking, I'm not saying on the dark side, but what's your biggest regret in your career to date? Now it could span the whole of your career rather than your current role, but what's your biggest regret?
I try not to have regrets because I'm happy where I am, and without all the mistakes, and I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, then I wouldn't be where I am. But I suppose if there's one, it would be that I didn't move into procurement sooner.
Okay.
As I mentioned, my wife's best friend worked in procurement, and even when she used to talk about it, it didn't flick a switch, it didn't turn a light on at all. And I didn't realise at the time, actually, I was kind of doing quite a bit of it already in my operations role. So, yes, I think that's probably my single biggest regret would be that I didn't move into procurement.
Do you still talk to your wife's friend?
Yes.
So you're probably best buddies now then?
Yeah,
as well
she works for Orbis, which is a Surrey and Sussex county council. And sometimes, if I've got, if there's something I'm trying to work through or whatever, I'll bounce something.
Bounce some ideas off and stuff.
As I do with, as I said earlier, I'm a member of the SIP South London branch. You have people who work in the NHS, work for the government, work for a whole host of different organisations, betting companies, and sometimes obviously you can't go into too much detail, but if you're just trying to work through something and you just can't think.
You need another perspective. Maybe
we've got a WhatsApp group. You just ask a question, and they do the same. And
so you mentioned, is it SIPS South London? What is that?
So SIPS have branches dotted all around the country.
Okay, what does it stand for?
And Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. And so I'm on the committee for the South London branch. There's a group of us that relaunched the branch in September 2019, just before lockdown. So we were just getting going, and but actually I think lockdown in some ways was quite beneficial because
you spoke a lot with each other on Teams and things like that.
But also we had a lot of webinars. So whereas meetings before were face-to-face, so we had them in London, etc., and you get quite a good turnout. Suddenly we have people from all around the world dialing in.
And this is all procurement people talking?
Yes, yes, and it can be about anything. So we've had webinars on software as a service, on corporate and social responsibility. I did one with some colleagues on social value.
Okay.
So a whole, some on different legal aspects as well. We're having one coming up on the procurement bill.
So this isn't a question that I had planned, but I mean, so as a young person that wants to get into procurement, is there avenues where they could join those webinars? Or
yes, just go onto the SIPS page, go onto events.
Okay.
You don't have to be a member of SIPS to
they don't have
them.
to be?
No.
Okay.
No, some are free, most are free, some are pay, and of the free ones, some are face-to-face and others are
fantastic.
Are webinars. So
that's very interesting.
Quite a wide range.
So now on a positive note, so what's your greatest achievement in your career to date?
I would say probably getting my masters. I left school at 16 with a couple of O-levels, and before studying for my Chartered Institute Procurement Supply qualifications, hadn't had any education in best part of 40 years. So getting my masters at the age of 56, I think, was probably my
fantastic,
my best achievement.
Fantastic. And finally, Gareth, what I always ask this question, but it's just always interesting to know. So, what things in life, I mean, could be in work, it could be in leisure, that give you the greatest satisfaction and enjoyment?
Gosh, this sounds really corny, but my family.
Okay.
I have two children. My son, who's 30 this year, and I'm very proud of the young man that he is. And my daughter, who is she's 19 in a couple of weeks actually, and she went off to university in September. And the way that she's grown, she was probably mollycoddled a little bit. She won't thank me for saying that, but she knows that she was. And the way she's grown into such a strong young woman is very.
You're not going to encourage them to go into procurement then?
Well, so my daughter went to the fashion college just at the back of Tottenham.
Okay, the London School of Fashion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was there as college, and they took some of the things they do around buying.
Yes.
So I did try to have that conversation with her, and she doesn't want to do buying.
No.
She was quite clear, but she was surprised because she didn't really understand what I did until I started to talk to her about, well, actually, this is what I do, and okay, I'm not buying, fabrics, etc. I have a friend who I met when studying, who at the time was working at Ted Baker.
Okay.
So he was going to try and get a placement for her, but as again, COVID came and kind of put the kibosh on that. But now she's at Derby University studying fashion. So. Okay,
I think that's almost brings us actually to a close of our second podcast. I'd just like to say it's been very insightful and very interesting listening. I'd like to thank Gareth Davies for taking the chair today. It has been, I think, for all of us, both thought-provoking and engaging. And we obviously welcome the support and feedback from our listeners. Gareth, I'd like to thank you very much.
No, thank you. And if I might just say, if you look on the IWFM or on the SIPS websites, there's lots of information about facilities management, there's lots of information about procurement, and it really is a career worth pursuing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.